He stepped into the room without fanfare. No need to announce his presence with volume or movement. There was something in the way he paused at the entrance, eyes calmly scanning the space, not out of insecurity but with awareness. He didn't rush to speak or smile. He didn't try to become what the room wanted. Instead, he allowed the silence to wrap around him like a second skin. People often think silence is a void to be filled, but for him, it was an anchor. It steadied him, gave him clarity. She noticed it instantly. In a world full of noise, his stillness was loud. He didn't fidget. He didn't shift with nerves. Simply stood there, present and grounded. When their eyes met, it wasn't a challenge, and it wasn't a plea. It was a moment of quiet recognition, as if he was saying, "I see you." Without uttering a word, she felt it not in her mind, but in her chest. There was a weight to his presence, the kind that comes from a man who doesn't perform, a man who knows who he is, even when no one is watching. That kind of silence is different. It's not passive. It speaks volumes, tells a story of composure, of emotional control, of a man who doesn't need to overcompensate or seek validation. Most people are uncomfortable with that kind of presence because it exposes them. But for her, it was magnetic. It wasn't about what he looked like or what he wore. It was the stillness, the certainty, the steady energy that followed him like a quiet storm. In that silence, he made an impression deeper than any words ever could, before she even knew his name. She could feel that he was a man who liked being alone, not in a cold, distant way, but in a way that spoke of peace, not isolation. He didn't move like someone trying to be seen. He didn't laugh too loud or linger too long, hoping to be pulled into conversations. There was something self-contained about him, like a man who had already faced his own noise, made peace with it, and now didn't need the world to validate his existence. That kind of inner relationship, the one you build in quiet hours, when no one's around to applaud your growth, that's what radiated from him. She watched the way he leaned against the wall, comfortable in his own space, eyes observing but not needy. He wasn't waiting for someone to choose him. He had already chosen himself. That level of self-acceptance is rare, and she could feel it in his posture, in the subtle confidence that came not from arrogance, but from wholeness. Most men try to impress by showing off what they've done, impress by showing nothing at all, just being. And it wasn't emptiness, it was fullness. He wasn't filling a void, he had already filled it. That made him magnetic in a way. That couldn't be faked. When a man doesn't chase attention, doesn't depend on someone else to complete him, it shifts everything. It changes how he speaks, how he looks at people, how he carries himself. She didn't just see confidence, she felt it, not the loud, scripted kind. The kind that said, "I know who I am, even when no one's watching." And that, more than anything else, made her want to know who he was beneath the surface. He didn't need to announce himself to be noticed. When he entered a space, it was like the air shifted, not because of anything he did, but because of how aware he was. There was no arrogance in his step, just certainty. His eyes moved with quiet intention, scanning the room not in judgment, but in understanding. He saw things most people missed, not just where the exits were or who was standing where, but the energy, the rhythm, the unspoken dynamics. It was clear he didn't need to control the room to feel in control. That level of self-possession was rare, and it showed in how he navigated the space not with noise, but with presence. She noticed the way he made eye contact without flinching, not staring to dominate, but simply acknowledging. He didn't look past people. He saw them. He didn't fight for attention, but somehow it gravitated toward him. There was power in that quiet awareness, in the way he didn't interrupt conversations but waited until there was space, and then spoke only when he had something worth saying. He had no need to rush, no need to outshine. His confidence didn't spike, it was steady, like it came from something deeper than approval. And in that still confidence, she saw something she rarely did: leadership without ego, its presence without performance. Most men try to own the room with volume, trying to be seen. He didn't need to be seen, he simply was, and that alone commanded attention. She didn't just admire it, she respected it, because it meant he wasn't reactive. he was intentional. He didn't let the room define him. He defined how he moved through it. That quiet kind of command isn't taught, it's built. And it left a lasting impression without ever needing a word. There was something unmistakable about the way he moved. He wasn't stiff or guarded, nor did he try to take up unnecessary space. Every motion seemed deliberate, calm, and rooted. His shoulders were relaxed, not slouched. His steps were confident, not hurried. It wasn't about being tough or projecting dominance. It was about being completely at home in his own body. She noticed it right away. Most people are in some kind of subtle battle with themselves, their posture revealing insecurities they haven't addressed. But not him. He moved like a man who had nothing to hide, nothing to prove. His hands weren't stuffed into pockets, his arms didn't cross defensively. He was open, still, and unbothered. That stillness, that quiet ease, said more than 1,000 attempts at swagger ever could, it said. He had fought his internal battles and made peace with who he was. That's what made his presence so calming. He wasn't bringing tension into the room. He was neutralizing it. She couldn't look away, not because he was flashy, but because he was grounded. It was in the way he leaned back without slouching, how he stood tall without appearing rigid. There was a natural confidence in his stance, the kind that said, "I'm good right here." And that kind of physical assurance isn't learned from a mirror, it comes from within, from self-respect, from presence. He didn't need to shrink himself to make others comfortable, and he didn't need to puff up to demand space. He simply existed, fully and unapologetically. And in a world where everyone's chasing an image, that kind of embodied calmness was rare. She saw it. And even without a word exchanged, it told her more about him than any conversation ever could. She could feel it before she fully understood it. He was going somewhere, not just through the room or through life in a vague way, but with direction, with intention. There was purpose in the way he moved. Like every step he took was part of a larger path that only he could see. He didn't wander. He didn't linger looking lost or uncertain. He wasn't there to impress or collect attention. He was already in motion toward something greater, with or without company. That quiet drive was magnetic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't forced. It was steady. And in a world where so many men drift, waiting for someone to give their life meaning, he had already found his own. That changed everything. It changed how he carried conversations. He didn't ask meaningless questions, didn't entertain small talk just to fill silence. He spoke with clarity. And when he listened, it was with full presence. His mind wasn't trying to escape, was rooted in the now, while still moving forward. That blend of groundedness and ambition was rare. She could see it in his eyes, not the desperation to prove himself, but the quiet fire of a man who was building something real. His validation didn't come from her smile or anyone's applause. It came from waking up each day with purpose. And the deeper she observed, the more she realized he wasn't trying to attract anyone. He was trying to become someone. That made her feel something she didn't expect: admiration, curiosity, even inspiration. Because a man who's guided by a vision greater than approval naturally shifts the energy around him. He doesn't chase, he builds, and that makes it. Woman, stop and ask not, does he like me? But who is this man becoming, and why do I feel pulled toward his path?